Broxson, and I'm from the National Animal Rights Association, and I'm here today with my partner in life and in activism, Tawnie Ocampo.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Of course. So, what I wanted to ask you first of all is what started your vegan journey and activist journey?
So I was an animal rights advocate before I actually became vegan. I started protesting using animals for entertainment and slaughterhouses. And through that, I met some friends and they were all vegan, and I added them on Facebook, and they were always posting about how being a vegetarian wasn't exactly enough. And I took that all in, and eventually I became vegan.
That's amazing. And can you remember what your first protest was?
Yeah, my first protest was actually SeaWorld. Thinking about orcas in captivity really got me thinking about animal rights and how they deserve rights when they don't really have any in today's society.
Yeah, absolutely. And from there, that you said helped kind of craft your journey into veganism and other forms of activism as well, and got you kind of immersed in the vegan community. But now you're over in Ireland, and I'm sure there's a lot of differences between US activism and European style of activism. So what is it that kind of struck you at the beginning as the main differences?
Yeah, well, I'm from Los Angeles originally, and in LA, you can get thousands of people showing up to a SeaWorld protest or a slaughterhouse protest. So the biggest difference would be the numbers. Here in Ireland, it's kind of hard to get those numbers. I think we only get about a couple hundred once every year for a march or a big event, whereas in Los Angeles, like you throw a protest outside of Farmer John's slaughterhouse and you can get literally thousands.
Wow, that must feel amazing to be a part of, and I hope it's something that we can see here happening one day. But can you maybe describe some sort of pros and cons to both? Like, is it essential to have big numbers, or is it like not that much of an advantage if you're consistent? What do you think about that?
Well, it's hard to get those numbers here in Ireland, but it just makes attending those protests even more important. Um, you don't need a lot of numbers to make a change, but it does, it looks impressive. But like I said, you don't really need them. We make big changes all the time in NARA, and our protests are usually less than 10 people. So
yeah, it's tiny but mighty. And speaking of kind of NARA and the protest that we organise, you were actually like the first person within NARA to organise marches. So through you, we've had the March to Close All Slaughterhouses, anti-farm marches, a march to ban hair coursing. So what motivated you to start that here, especially because we have such small numbers?
yeah, well, I first organized a big march in 2016 with NARA. It was the March to Close Down All Slaughterhouses. It's an event that I got involved in California at first, and I thought it looked very impressive, and it really showed me that there's so many people out there who feel the same I do regarding animals. So I wanted to bring that here, and the first time we had the march, we had around 200 to 300 people show up, and we walked along O'Connell Street, which is a really busy street here. And I purposely hold the marches around November because it's like around the Christmas season, the holiday season, where a lot of people are buying presents for people. So the streets are the busiest then. Usually around the world, I think the March to Close Down All Slaughterhouses actually happens in the summer. So we're a bit different that way. But I think it works better because we also hand out vegan guides, these booklets that have a whole bunch of information from recipes to vegan makeup to household items. And so we try to make people think about the switch around the holiday season and around New Year's to kind of coincide with Veganuary. And it's actually been really, really beneficial, I feel. I think it gets a lot of people seeing that we are here, like vegans exist in Ireland.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and the look on people's faces when they see us marching down the street on that day is great, because it really does get them thinking about animal rights.
Absolutely. And I think, we seem to get better responses every single year from the public, so I also think that it does help bring the vegan community and different groups together once a year for a common goal. And like, as you said, having it pre-Christmas holiday season is a good opportunity to give people alternative festive eating options and recipes and things like that. So it's actually been like a huge boost to veganism this year, the event here, and we get lots of positive feedback, which is brilliant.
Yeah, and this event actually first started in France, and the organizers in France, they actually come over to Dublin every now and then and support our event too, so it's really cool.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And what I was going to say there was, you also organised the anti-fur marches here in the height of our campaign to ban fur farming. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I think March is like, even if you don't have thousands of people show up, even like a handful of people, I think just walking around holding these signs that make a statement is very powerful, because when we're protesting, we're kind of stuck to one area. When I have marches, we're kind of showing more the public that this is going on, this is an issue that needs to be tackled. So when I organize marches, it's mainly for awareness, to let people know that this is happening and we need them on board to help join the campaign and make it stop.
Absolutely, and it was a huge boost to the campaign at the time, which was great. And that kind of brings me into activism and the vegan community here in Ireland. So as a queer person of colour, how have your experiences been like in the vegan community in terms of, say, racism, for example?
Well, they've been good and bad. It's been a good and bad experience. I'm definitely a minority because I'm a person of color and I'm queer in the vegan community and an activist. It comes with people overlooking you because they can't really relate to you. I've had many times where I just like to vent to other vegans about mean things that happened to me by people here in Ireland or even other activists. Like, I've had people shout at me at protests, "Go back to your own country, you foreigner," and people who are like, "Oh, who are you to tell me what to do when you're not even Irish?" When I've been living here for nearly 5 years and I'm a resident and I'd like to get my citizenship as well. But it's just, it's based on, that I'm brown, and yeah, and that's what makes me not Irish.
That's awful.
And I've had other activists refer to me as what he thought my ethnicity was, and he knew my name, but he calls me the Mexican. And I've told people how it upsets me, but I don't think they can really grasp how belittling it is to have people treat you that way, because they're all white, so they can't understand this. But I've made some really good friends through activism and through being here in Ireland who do value me.
So it's still quite a problem, but you're still getting support too, which is good. But it is an issue that needs to be dealt with clearly a lot more, because I've witnessed it too, and I've noticed as well that amongst the animal rights community, it is mostly white dominated. So we definitely need to work on that more to change. But for anyone not familiar with how campaigns overlap, can you explain what being consistently anti-oppression means?
To me, it means being against anything that takes away someone's right to exist happily as themselves. It's against all forms of oppression, so that's racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, speciesism, xenophobia. There's a big list, but it's not hard to understand if you just look at it like you treat others with the respect you'd want.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's you know what we should all be. And then linking up with that, can you explain why it's so important for animal rights activists to support and join in with human rights campaigns?
I think animal rights activists and human rights activists need to share each other's ideas and thoughts because they'll find that they're actually pretty much the same. Human rights are animal rights, and it's important that we stand together, because when we stand together, I think we'll have a good chance at winning these things that we're fighting for.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said. What kind of campaigns are you working on at the moment or involved in?
At the moment, with NARA, we are fighting to get a ban on hair coursing. So we are lobbying the government at the moment to push for that, and hopefully this season will be no season, and it'll be like that for forever.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And what would your advice be to anyone thinking of going vegan, and then maybe for any new vegans thinking of getting actively involved in campaigns?
Do what you can, and know that you make a difference, even if you're standing alone at the moment. You can always reach out to people in your community that you think have the same ideas as you. And also, I think take advice and be open to new ideas as well is a big one. I think, yeah.
Yeah, well, that all sounds good. So is there any last message you'd like to give out?
Be kind, and look up small grassroots organizations around you and support them as much as possible. That goes for animal rights and human rights organizations. They're the ones that are making huge changes. I would do your own thing too, because one of the mistakes I made when I first went vegan and started doing activism is I kind of just rolled with the big groups, and I kind of got sucked into vegan celebrities, and that just kind of leads you down a road of disappointment. So be your own hero, but also be open to new ideas. And I would also, if you are gonna plug anyone or put anyone on platforms, look to your minority activists, people who are usually not really shown in the causes.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said. Thanks so much, Tawnie.
Thank you.
Bye.